I need viral content now.
I don't know what I'd write about.
Oh, I was hit by a car.
Everybody, come hug Ryan. He was hit by a car and now he's a weird, sad lip forever.
Thank you so much.
Okay, that's great. That's enough. Thank you.
I'm already in love with whatever this is. Welcome to Cordkillers, the show about watching the stuff you love, when you want, where you want, however you want. I'm Tom Merritt. He's Brian Brushwood. You're gosh darn right it is. What did we just see, Bryce?
That was a clip from the upcoming Netflix sitcom Special. It's about a young man who has a mild cerebral palsy, but hides it in public by because he does get into an actual car accident, but that's what he tells people he has a limp for, is this car accident and not, this long-term disease.
I am almost certain that this is the plot of a movie in the late 80s, late 80s.
Oh,
where, yeah? There's a female lead who also has cerebral palsy, but she hides it by... She goes to a ski resort and she has a big cast and acts like she
broke her leg.
Yeah, broke her leg skiing.
Interesting.
And then like the big reveal at the end is, she's wearing the crutches. You're like, it's you already fell in love with me. No backsies.
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
And the end.
I wonder if this is this is based on the life of Ryan O'Connell, who is starring and who is starring in this film. In the show.
Oh, so okay. Weirdly, that makes me feel I don't know, better. I wouldn't feel bad about it, because
wouldn't it be great if Ryan O'Connell got the idea to do this from watching that movie you're talking about, and that's in this series somehow?
Oh my God, that would be amazing!
Really
it goes totally meta.
We'll find out April 12th.
All right, cool. That sounds great.
Yeah. By the way, Trent, I hope you like the way we introduced Bryce. More on that later. Let's get on with the primary target. So this was the big day, March 25th, Apple announcing its TV service. They also announced a credit card, a news service, a gaming subscription service. But on this show, we're going to focus specifically on the TV-related announcements. Brian, let's start with the stuff that's coming sooner, which is the changes to the TV app. So you now get everything in one app. The way you do now, but with a little bit extra. So you will be able to get Epix, CBS, Starz, Showtime, HBO. I'm not going to name them all, but Mubi is in there. Shudder, Sundance Now, that new PBS thing that just came to Amazon. The what is it called? The PBS Living. All of those will be available within Apple's TV app, so that you can add them on the way that Amazon does add-ons to Prime Video, and have it all going into one bill and all available within the TV app without being kicked out to another app. So you watch something in the TV app. When you're done, you press the menu button on Apple TV, and it goes back to the TV app interface, and you can pick the next thing to watch. Also, you can download all of those for offline viewing. And I think well, let me say this one other thing. There's some machine learning that's going to do a For You section of the TV app to do some, hey, we noticed you like these kinds of things. Let me make some recommendations, kind of a Netflix style stuff. But I think the biggest addition here is the fact that the TV app is going to come to the Mac this autumn. It won't be just on iOS and tvOS devices. And it's coming to Samsung, LG, Sony, Vizio, Roku, and Fire TV. So Samsung, LG, and Sony televisions, Vizio televisions, and the Roku televisions and boxes, plus the Fire TV. Amazon's Fire TV is going to have the Apple TV app. This new app is also going to come to 100 plus countries. I think it's limited to around 30 right now. There's also a new kids tab in here. But the big news is the cross-platform play and the addition of channels, the ability to sort of bring those subscriptions into one place. It is not, Brian, what I was hoping for, which was like a really simplified, unified bill and guide, but it's part way there. Part of that is there. They're taking steps down that road. Man, so many different things to deconstruct here. I suppose the chief among which is this feels, I can't think of a single... In fact, I'm going to challenge you because I'm certain you can, but I'm scouring my mind to think of anything Apple has released that was this friendly to non-Apple products. Have they ever gone
Apple as Adobe, as software masters.
iTunes coming to Windows, Apple Music coming to Android is the closest I can get.
But even then, that's not as expansive as what they're doing here. This is the most
Arguably, if they had brought this to Windows, that would be the big thing. Or if they brought it to Android, which they're not.
Got it. Okay, that is significant then. I stand corrected.
They're basically saying, like, we don't really care about the desktop that much. This is for people who want to watch it on a television. So we're going to bring it to Roku and we're going to bring it to Fire TV. And yeah, that is a big deal.
Well, and to be honest, I understand the impulse to do this because this plays to their strengths. They are wizards at user interface. They are wizards when it comes to the customer experience and polish and all of that stuff. I wonder what behind the scenes requirements they had in terms of hardware capabilities. Like, hey, if you want Apple TV to be on, you have to hit these minimums so that it looks good because that's our bread and butter. I don't know. It feels to me, and I have no basis for this outside of my gut as a consumer of Apple products for 15 years. It just feels like an admission of defeat in a weird way. Is that out of line for me to say?
It might be overstating it, but I know exactly what you're getting at, which is this is not a big update to the TV app. First of all, we're not getting the channels until May, and they didn't announce what any of them will cost. Now, the reports out there from sources say that HBO might be $10 instead of the $15 you pay for HBO now. They might be bundling stuff together, so you can get a discount by getting Starz and Showtime and HBO. But this is not a big revolutionary change. The TV app works the way they described it already. The only difference is they bounce you out to the apps right now, and this won't bounce you out to the apps, and there'll be a little machine learning. I can see the potential here, the way I could see the potential when the TV app first launched, and eventually my skepticism was proved wrong because they brought in HBO, they brought in Hulu, they brought in Prime Video, they brought in PlayStation Vue and Spectrum, for goodness sake. I could be wrong about this right now, but right now I'm very skeptical because this is not a fully formed upgrade to the TV app. It's adding a couple of cool features to the TV app. Right.
And speaking of which, it's great that they're making it possible to buy HBO and Cinemax and Starz and all that stuff through the app. Universally, it's great that they're doing that. It's good for the consumer. Feels like a big fat just now catching up move to bring parity to them versus Amazon, and which again, this doesn't smell like a home run to me. And again, maybe that's an unfair supposition, is that every time Apple gets on stage they have to knock it out of the park, but this doesn't feel anywhere near that. It's like, congratulations, you're now 5 years or 3 years ago on Amazon.
That's typical for Apple, though, right? Like, Apple usually is late. That's not the problem.
But
Apple usually is late, but doing it better.
Exactly.
And this doesn't feel like it's necessarily doing it better.
Exactly. We don't mind that they are late to the party because they always make a grand entrance. There's nothing grand about this entrance when it comes to, now we do the thing that Amazon's already done for a while, and it feels exactly the same. We're Apple.
I'll be honest. I love the TV app. I love the tracking that it does now. I think its ability to let me know when sports teams are playing that I care about has increased my enjoyment of watching my old college team and stuff like that. I think it's cool that they're going to have some add-on channels in here. I can't decide if that's a good thing for me to do or not, partly because they haven't told me the price, but also, if I'm now logging into HBO through the TV app, how does that affect watching HBO on Android? How does that affect watching HBO on Windows in my browser? I have a few questions about the seamlessness of that. All of that said, though, these aren't bad upgrades. I think the most significant thing here is the fact that they're coming to all these other platforms. And that's a wider technology story of Apple pivoting to services instead of hardware, and is important for them. So maybe this is just, the first Apple iPhone didn't have an app store. Maybe this is that stage of it. And the TV app was already out. And so that was kind of the cool thing, was how the TV app works. And now it'll just work on more platforms.
Sure. How much better an announcement would this have been, and how much money would it have been worth for them to be able to surprise everybody with the words including Netflix? Like, at some point there was some negotiations behind the scenes. At some point Netflix quoted a number or refused to quote a number, but like, how many dollars would this have been an extraordinary announcement if out of nowhere they were able to say, including Netflix.
Oh yeah, no. I'll go you one better since we're in Fantasyland. Netflix and Hulu, right?
Yep.
Like you will get HBO, Showtime, Stars, CBS, Hulu, and Netflix all in one bill. All in one interface, right? That boom, all of a sudden mind exploding. This is great. They did not emphasize the all in one bill element of this. And I imagine it's because they didn't have Netflix and Hulu. And they're like, yeah, it's all in one bill, but it's not all in one bill because we know everybody's going to be subscribing to these things like PlayStation View even that aren't part of us.
This is what happens when you try to launch with only 3 Infinity Stones. Like they had 2 left. They needed the green one and the red one. Then they would have been a great.
Eliminating half the competition. Why isn't it working?
Now here's a generous speculation on my part. I suspect out of everything you mentioned so far, the machine learning recommendations will be the real star of the show, which is why I'm surprised. Apple is incredibly good at showing, not telling. And it sounds like they did nothing. I did not watch this announcement. You watched it live. It sounded like this was all telling and not showing. It sounds like everything was. It sounds like this is the Captain Marvel of Apple announcements.
Well, speaking of telling, not showing, let's get to the other thing, because the other element of this that we have been not acknowledging yet is Apple's original television shows. That could have been another splash here. And they did announce that their original television shows will be coming out as a service called Apple TV Plus. Apple TV Plus will include Amazing Stories, and they had Steven Spielberg come out and tell you about Amazing Stories. The Morning Show with Jennifer Aniston and Reese Witherspoon and starring Steve Carell. All 3 of them came out and told us about The Morning Show. Jason Momoa and Alfre Woodard came out and told us about the sci-fi series C that will have an Earth where no one can see anymore. Kumail Nanjiani, who I enjoy, he's hilarious, did a little stand-up routine while he told us about Little America. Sesame Street had Big Bird telling us about the coding show Helpsters. J.J. Abrams and Sarah Bareilles told us and sang for us about the show Little Voice. And Oprah Winfrey came out and talked to us about the 2 documentaries she's going to make, Toxic Labor, an unnamed multi-part series on mental health, and she announced she's going to do a book club. What we got to see was a sizzle reel of a few clips that prove they've actually shot footage for some of these.
So if you were going to distill, how long was the whole announcement? This TV?
Oh, it was 90 plus minutes.
Okay. All right. So if you're going to distill that whole 90 minutes to just one statement, a core message they were trying to tell every viewer and listener within earshot, every person who is going to read about this event, if they wanted to say one thing about Apple TV, what do you feel like the core message of this entire 90-minute presentation would be?
Brian, it's going to be great.
Oh, we're visionaries, Tom. We're visionaries.
Now, they did say it's going to be an ad-free subscription service. That implies they're going to charge, though they didn't tell us how much. All these shows will be available for viewing offline. There will be a new release every month. So once they get rolling, they'll keep adding to it. And it will come out this autumn in 100 plus countries. So Brian, we only have to wait until autumn, at the latest December 21st.
So here's the part that makes me bummed for Apple, which is a weird thing to be bummed for, richest people in the world. Is I think all of the best parts, all of the most promising parts of this will not be Chrome. It will not be pretty to look at. It will be useful in ways that we didn't know that we wanted until we got there, like the machine learning and everything being in the same app and all that stuff. And it may be that even without Netflix and Hulu, they have enough of a gravitational well that it becomes worth it to dive into that ecosystem and stay there. But man, I wouldn't bet money on it. That's not where I'm at just yet.
There were a lot of people they couldn't say no to at this announcement. That's what it felt like to me. This is not a package that Apple would usually announce. If the Apple was entirely being the Apple that I have come to know over the years, they would have held most of this until autumn. They might not have even launched channels until autumn, when they could say, and it's all available now or next week, soon.
I mean, even that would have been a very on the nose Apple move, right? Like give us literally anything, but they didn't. They most of what we heard had been either leaked or announced or out there in advance.
And that is the part I try to remind myself is, Apple is saying, look, we never announced any of these people. We know you're not surprised that Steven Spielberg came out because you read all the leaks, but we never made it official. Today we're making it official. And I try to remember that, let's not take rumors as fact. But come on, if you're going to spend this much time bringing out Steven Spielberg, J.J. Abrams, Kumail Nanjiani, Sarah Bareilles, freaking Oprah Winfrey. I mean, big names. This is an impressive list of stars that you're rolling out here. And that's not lost on me. This is impressive what Apple's doing. You should be doing it at a time where you can capitalize on that buzz and go, and here it is. And they're not doing that this time. They're saying sometime next fall. I
have a bit of advice. I have an interpretation. This is a lens through which you can view all this and understand what's happening. This was the first Apple E3 announcement, and they don't know how to tell an E3 story. Because we see PlayStation has figured out how to walk out and have nothing but get us all excited about what's coming. Xbox has figured out how to do it.
Interesting.
Nintendo's figured out how to do it. They know that you got to show us something, give us a demo, tease us with a vignette and all that stuff, and get us all super stoked.
Ironically, two of those three aren't even doing stage keynotes anymore. Sony just did their first digital-only one today.
Oh, wow.
Nintendo's been doing them for years.
Wild.
Yeah.
So
but regardless, they I've seen announcements where there was nothing substantive that came out and walked out electrified. It can be done. Just Apple apparently doesn't have the experience.
I do think that part of this was not meant for us, which is also unusual for you. Apple is almost entirely consumer focused. They even said that during their announcement today. But I think a lot of this was meant to beat their other partners who haven't come to the table over the head with what they have. And there's something behind the scenes that says these originals are going to drive people to our platform to subscribe to other services, and you need to take advantage of that because it will make you money. Look, HBO's doing it, Starz is doing it, CBS All Access is doing it. You need to do it too. Look at who we've got. What we don't know is how Apple TV Plus is going to work. If I had to guess right now, my best guess is they are going to do bundles of channels. They're going to get people used to doing bundles of channels, and they're going to say Apple TV Plus is available for, $5 a month unless you have a bundle. If you have a bundle of channels, it's available for no additional charge. And that is another thing that we didn't mention here is family plan. All of these services they announced today have family plans. So when you subscribe to HBO through the Apple TV channels, you get up to 6 family members have access to that account. There's no having to share logins. Their own Apple logins will get them into HBO.
Yeah. So our official response is, all right.
Yeah, my response to the Apple TV update and the Apple TV channels is, well, that's disappointing. My response to Apple TV Plus is, seriously, really? Are you trolling, Brian? Because this is what I was hoping would be the day where I could say, see, Brian, they're real. And I can kind of say that because these actual people came out and showed they're actually working on these shows. And I guess there's a little bit of footage to judge, but not much. Not much at all.
Yeah. Meanwhile, you know what you can judge is our worth to your daily commute or your life, because you can go to patreon.com/Cordkillers and give us $1 an episode. That's all we ask. If we provide value to you, if you appreciate our insights, if we've saved you any money as you join the cord cutting revolution, then by all means, we'd love to have that $1. It matters a lot to us. Head on over to patreon.com/Cordkillers. You get your own RSS feed and a super secret after talk segment that we do every time we shoot the show.
Yeah, the number of patrons there is like our battery life. So you need to recharge our batteries at patreon.com/Cordkillers. Yeah. All right, let's talk about how to watch. There's some significant numbers coming out of the Motion Picture Association of America, the MPAA, reporting that the world market for entertainment, including home and theater going, grew 9% in 2018. to $96.8 billion. So entertainment, TV and movies, doing well. Digital home entertainment drove the growth. Worldwide digital sales grew 34%. Physical releases dropped 14%. So people aren't buying as many physical discs, but they're definitely buying digital. Streaming video subscriptions grew 27% to 613.3 million worldwide. And for the first time worldwide, there are more video subscribers to streaming services at 613.3 million than subscribers to cable services at 556 million. Now, that doesn't include satellite. That's just cable. And cable still brought in $6.2 billion more than streaming because they can charge you for everything. Streaming is usually cheaper. And yes, there is too much to watch. Since 2014, scripted dramas have grown by 28%. There were 496 scripted dramas in 2018. That doesn't include daytime drama. That doesn't include children's shows. That doesn't include unscripted reality shows. If you add those in the mix, there were 1,620 new programs in 2018. And here's a little tidbit. Revenue at theater box offices grew 1% worldwide, which is essentially flat. Spending in Europe and the Middle East on movies and Africa dropped, but was offset to bring it back up to flat by growth in moviegoing in the United States, Canada, and China.
That is that last bit is that an indication that as robots do more and more jobs, like our job is just to be consumers of art from as we move forward, where it's like in a wealthy Western society, I guess not Europe,
well,
but in America,
Europe dropped. They have robots.
What is it about Americans that we love, that we're continuing to love our movies so much that we're picking up the dead weight of the rest of the world?
I don't know. Well, it's the U.S., Canada, and China. So it's not just North America that's picking up the dead weight. I have a feeling that movies in 2018 were targeted towards two markets and did really well there. And the production houses said, you know what? Those made a lot of money. If they weren't popular in Europe, so what?
So you mentioned in there that there's too much to watch. Is that a real sentiment, or because I perceive it as a flight to quality in niche programming, where it's like everybody still has the same.
You don't hear people saying there's too much to watch. I mean, we've said it on this show before. I can't keep up with all the good shows that I want to watch.
I do believe that. However, like let's say you have 20 unit hours of art consumption in video format available per week. Too much implies like we need to go back to less television.
No. I think this is just a line that I wrote, by the way. This is not
I know. This is me asking you.
I just want to make that clear.
This is why I'm asking. Is if you perceive it as
I assumed when I
much.
wrote that line that we all agree the sentiment is, gosh, there's more good stuff to watch than I have time for. Is all I meant by that line.
And we've definitely both said that at different times. But I guess I'm having a moment of introspection of like, do I believe that? Do I really need to go and watch American Gods?
Well, I think you're jumping to this, like, is that a problem? And I would agree with you that is not a problem. I think we just need to get used to the fact, our generation grew up in an era where you could watch all the good things, right? And it was like, if you didn't watch something, it's because you didn't think it was that good. And that's not true anymore.
And
we are entering a new era, which I always compare to books, where there are just more good TV shows than you could ever watch in your lifetime. Just like there are more good books than you could ever read in your lifetime.
And I think that's the discussion that I'm trying to tee up is, given that these hard numbers are indicating that quote unquote problem is only going to get quote unquote worse. Like, do we need to like how comfortable are we if these numbers are doubling? Like maybe there's 3,000 narrative television shows, or
I don't think it matters. I think we have to abandon that. I think that question springs from the idea that, yes, but I should be able to watch everything, right? And we just have to abandon that and be like, no, there will always, from now on, for the rest of history, be more good television shows than I will have time to watch, and I'll have to pick what I think are the ones that entertain me the most and are worth my time, just like I do with books.
Yeah, and I agree about that. So I suppose this is a flight of
But
fancy.
I don't think it's a problem, and I don't think it's something that needs to be fixed or will go away. It's like, hey, we finally hit scale in television because it's cheaper to make it and make it good.
Okay, so there are some people who perceive it as a problem, and what do you think the odds are? This is total speculation on my part. Do you think that we've already seen a niche where people don't have 15 minutes to watch a YouTube video, so they watch a 90-second Instagram version of it that says pretty much the same thing? Do you think that there is a place, a middle ground, so that you know what all your friends are talking about? Because remember, we covered a story a few years ago where somebody had cut together Breaking Bad as a single 2.5 hour movie.
Yes.
And it got taken down, of course, but like they eliminated subplots. Jesse Pinkman's barely in it, but it's pretty much tells the story about it. If you don't want the same experience as all of your friends, but you do want the common ground to get those jokes that they're saying and those references, then this is a good, I think that Breaking Bad movie, quote unquote, was a good middle ground solution. And I'm wondering if the quote unquote problem, and I know I'm veering us off course from the actual news story, but would that be, maybe this is what I want to kick to the fans, but do you think we'll see an emerging market for the mini versions of things like?
No. I think this is fascinating because there's a couple other implications that you're sparking in my head too. First of all, if you keep my metaphor about books, we have lots of examples of this in books. There are books you can buy that summarize all the great books so that you can act as if you've read them.
Yes.
There are actually audio books that will tell you the plots of books in a shorter time than actually listening to the full audiobook. There's all kinds of examples. Cliff's Notes, as I mentioned. So yeah, not only will I think there will be a burgeoning industry for that, and gosh, if you're the production house, you should cash in on that right now because it will only bring you more people that become fan of your property. But I wonder if, like books, there will be a canon of the great works of television that you want to say you have watched. Like, not just because you want to catch cultural references with your friends, but you're like, to be a well-read and well-watched person, you should have, watched these movies and television shows.
Oh my gosh, everything condensed down to 2.5 hour versions of it. And your Tuesday night is getting caught up on all the great television shows. The 100 best, pictured the 100 best television shows, each one condensed into a 2.5 hour movie. And yes, it won't be perfect. Yes, it'll be missing a lot of stuff. But after having watched it, you'll have an appreciation for why everybody else liked it. And you'll at least get the cultural references that go with it. Ooh, that's good. This also ties into, I've talked about media as a fractal, something that looks pretty much the same at 1,000 feet as 1 inch. The 1 inch view is the actual watching 6 seasons of Game of Thrones or whatever. And then but the 1,000-foot view is the 2.5 hour Game of Thrones movie.
Yeah. And if I could jump back to this MPA numbers there, I want to point out again, sales of physical releases dropping, streaming video subscriptions rising. There are lots of reasons that shouldn't be happening. There are lots of advantages, and we've talked about them. Lots of people email us about the advantages of physical. If your argument is physical is better, that's great. You've got great arguments. If your argument is streaming won't catch on, I don't think that argument is paying out here.
Yeah. You know what? We have a theme for the episode. We've been saying for years, Apple TV is going to be great. Also been saying for years that convenience trumps fidelity. And I think the numbers are bearing that out.
It was not even political when we first started saying. All right, let's talk about what to watch in Under Surveillance.
I was late on that one.
Under Surveillance.
Hey, man, we're going to be talking more about what to watch on these services as time goes on because there's so much good stuff being made. And as we did a rewatch of Deadwood on its Spoilerin Time, we're very excited that the Deadwood movie has a teaser out and will premiere Friday, May 31st at 8 p.m. on HBO. What'd you think of the teaser, Brian?
It is astonishing to me how it looks like not one of these people have aged a day. Like, and it may be full on digital de-aging as that technology becomes more affordable, but it looks like not one beat has been missed since
It's almost
production.
a problem because I think the story is supposed to be set 10 years later. And you're like, they don't look 10 years older.
It looks great. And the idea of, there's an opening shot where you see, it used to be on the television show, you would get like 1 or 2 wide shots of the city because they're expensive. And the fact that they're showing this like movies get a different budget, it'd be a lot of fun if we got to see some set pieces that never could have worked when it was a television show.
Yeah. And everybody who's alive is in this teaser. That was the thing that struck me. I'm like, wow, there's Joni. Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I expected to see Raylan. I expected to see Swearingen.
I didn't expect like Hearst all of a sudden remembering that this terrifying, credible villain is still alive and well in the city of Deadwood.
Still involved.
Like, boy. All right.
So I feel lucky that we waited to watch Deadwood until this past year. And now I don't have to wait that long for the conclusion. Like, I feel like I cheated.
It's a life hack. Here's a life hack. Watch Deadwood now so that you can be like us.
Yeah, you'll get if you're waiting till now to watch Deadwood, now's the time, right? Like, time it out so that you're finishing on May 30th and you'll be the winner. Stranger Things also has a trailer out for season 3, which is coming out July 4th on Netflix. And I got nothing bad to say except great. I'm excited. This looks good to me.
I got good stuff
to say. It's all about
say.
the kids.
Man, that remix of Teenage Wasteland, that was great. That music was great. And the acknowledgement that the kids are about to move into their own apartments is great. Also, how old is that one kid? Is he just never going to grow front teeth? Is that what's going on? Like, did they knock out his teeth for the character? They're like, sorry, your character never has front teeth. We're just going to knock him out.
I didn't notice that. I don't know what you're talking about.
The one kid with the curly hair. He's got no two front teeth.
He doesn't have front teeth?
Yeah, he's right there. You see him. You see it.
No, I know. The guy with the baseball cap.
Yeah. In the opening shot, you see him scream.
Yeah, he doesn't.
Well, some kids don't have front teeth in Indiana, Brian.
I mean,
okay? I don't know.
Guess.
I don't know what to tell you.
I thought it was just a cute, like, he's a young kid and doesn't have 2 front teeth. Then
also, they're not. In case anybody was wondering, they're not actually going to college in this. They are still young.
I mean, the actors are clearly.
Yeah, I mean, the characters are young. Billy Bobby Brown. I mean, and the dynamics between the kids, they rightly emphasized in this because that's really what makes this so much better than it would be otherwise. Is that you can tell this cast just has chemistry, just works together. Yeah. Toy Story 4's latest trailer came out, and the Toy Story 4 is coming to the theaters June 21st. This trailer gives us a little more of the story. It's about the spoon fork. It's a spork that was made into a toy and doesn't want to be a toy and runs away. And that's how Woody is going to find other characters from his past. And it's touching and sad like a Toy Story movie should be. Yeah.
Also, I wouldn't put it past Pixar to feed us this spork as a central character thing as a feint, where it's like,
oh yeah,
I agree. This won't be the focus of the show because
the focus is going to be Woody, I think.
Well, and it's so fan servicey to go into, oh my God, at what point does a toy get imbued with life? Is it the affection? Is it having googly eyes on it? And that
I do
seems
like the idea of a toy being like, no, I am a fork. I want to be used for eating things. Screw you, lady, for making me into a toy.
Oh, real quick, hats off to Goucham in the chat who enlightened me that the actor has a condition that his character has, cleidocranial dysplasia, CCD, is apparently it is a thing. Like what,
the teeth?
Yeah, the teeth thing. It's a
okay.
thing.
We're not talking about Toy Story 4 anymore.
Correct, but I wanted
took a hard turn on me.
I didn't want to be insensitive and not.
I thought you were talking about the fork when you said he has a condition.
Well, I mean, no, he's got 3 teeth right up at the top. What? Okay.
Dora and the Lost City of Gold came out. Well, the trailer came out, although it pretty much tells you the whole story. And the movie's coming out August 2nd if you want to see the parts that aren't in the trailer.
Man, the hot take in my family's house was, oh my gosh, Boots doesn't have boots. That's the worst thing ever. And I was thinking like, okay, yeah. I'm gonna watch this trailer and I'm gonna have a hotter take. And then I watched this trailer and yeah, I guess Boots doesn't have boots. That's the
Maybe
hottest
Boots
take.
gets his boots at the end of the movie. Maybe that's something they left out of the trailer.
Maybe.
He also doesn't talk in the trailer, and I definitely thought he had a voice actor.
He does. And also the backpack talks and everything talks, which is what there was a parody trailer like 5 years ago that made like the backpack be a high-tech, artificially intelligent everything bag and some other stuff. So
I'm saying it's weird that they didn't put any of that in the trailer.
Is it weird?
That's what she's known for. That's the thing.
Where in the world is Dora the Explorer? Also on an entirely different end of the spectrum, Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood got its trailer, and it is coming July 26th. Imagine Quentin Tarantino made a movie about 1960s Hollywood, and you've almost seen the trailer.
Yeah. Now we can win.
I'm not saying that in a bad way, by the way. I'm just saying, like, if you want Quentin Tarantino, you're gonna get it.
He has a voice, he has a style. Project that onto that thing. Question: you think it wins an Oscar? It is about how important movies are and actors, and they're great.
It's also Quentin Tarantino, so I don't know how that calculus.
So when he loses, it'll be for gratuitous use of the N-word.
And by that you mean nice?
Sure.
Hulu's Into the Dark trailer for its April Fool's episode. If you remember, Into the Dark is the anthology series from Blumhouse that is putting out one episode every month that's themed around a holiday, and this one's themed around April Fool's. So the trailer shows a guy kind of messing with somebody, and then maybe those tables get flipped.
Yeah, I guess I'm happy I saw the trailer.
Not flipped. The table might get flipped too, but I meant turned.
Have you guys been watching this series?
No,
but I keep meaning to. The trailers are good. I like that.
Everything looks great, right? It looks like a freaking movie.
So, I don't know. But it's not like they're going away.
Right.
You can.
That's always the problem in a world with too many good things.
I'll watch the 2.5 hour summary of the anthology where each 10-minute segment is each of the episodes.
Some other good news. HBO has renewed High Maintenance for its 4th season, and Marvel's Runaways got renewed by Hulu for its 3rd season.
I had forgotten how much I enjoyed High Maintenance, and I've been looking for just a kind of an on show that I could have on that I wouldn't be stealing anything from Bonnie. I'm so thrilled to know that there's so much more high maintenance.
And then we have some development stuff, mostly casting news. But first of all, Bill and Ted are going to make a 3rd movie, which has been in the works for a long time. But Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter made a video, put it on Twitter saying, we want to say thank you to our fans because it looks like we might actually hopefully make a movie this summer. That's, I think, been in development since 2011 for sure.
Yeah. So what purpose did this announcement serve if it's not a confirmation?
I think it's a confirmation. They're just being all Bill and Ted.
I mean, there's a release date right here.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, I don't think there's any doubt that it's coming out.
Well, good. I'm very excited about that. Also, if you haven't seen it, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, very underrated. It's amazing.
Did that came out 91?
92, I think.
92? Okay.
Yeah.
But a while back.
No, it was 91.
Back before Alex Winter was primarily a director and Keanu Reeves was defending the honor of dogs.
It's true.
Amazon has cast Sam Strike, who, if you watched Night Flyers, maybe you saw him, as the new Roland Deschain, a.k.a. Gunslinger, in the Amazon adaptation of the Stephen King series. Jasper Pakkonen of Vikings has been cast as Martin. That's one of the aliases of the Man in Black, so that tells you a little bit about what portion of the story we're going to get.
Tom, it's too precious. I can't. Like this story is too precious to me, and we have been on such a roller coaster on this for so long. I hope it is great, but I can't. I'm in the middle of my 5th lap of the books, reading them with my daughter. This is precious to me, and I hope they do very well.
I never watched the movie.
You never saw the movie?
Nope.
I told you my take.
Just hold out to hear what people say about this before I dive in.
I mean, okay. I agree. Although my take on the movie is you should see it. It's like, imagine, I told you this before, but imagine you're at Six Flags and there's a rundown tilt-a-whirl that happens to be themed around the Dark Tower. And you know it's going to be awful. You know it's just going to be a tilt-a-whirl. You know that it won't be good, but you're going to get on that ride.
So
it's the Dark Tower.
I should watch it while standing in a line. Is what you're saying.
Sure.
As if it were the playthrough getting me ready for the ride.
Yes, exactly. It's the queue line thing where it's like break it into 10 segments where each time Roland Deschain is like, listen, I need you to grab the MacGuffin and watch out for the man in black. If he comes, you better pull out your 6 guns.
Because we're going for a whirl of a ride. TV Line reports that Miranda Richardson, if you don't recognize that name, she played Rita Skeeter in the Harry Potter movies, has joined the cast of the Game of Thrones prequel series for HBO. So we know Naomi Watts is part of that cast. Miranda Richardson, the latest to be added to that. Naomi Ackie is in there, Ivano Jeremiah, Georgie Henley, Jamie Campbell, a bunch of people.
Do you think HBO is right to wring as much money as they can out of the Game of Thrones franchise? It is legitimately, in my opinion, the best television show that has ever been. How, as a fan, do you feel about the possibility that everything strays farther and farther from what was great about the first series? And like, do you worry about it being a pale shadow?
Well, if you put it that way, yes, I'm very worried about it straying away from what was great about the first series. I want it to also be great. But I think there's a chance that telling me the lore so far in the past is a really good move, because it's not like, well, wait a minute, how does that work with the thing? It's going to be revealing secrets in the past in an independent enough way to give me some really interesting takes on this world that don't conflict with the current series. Yeah,
I guess you never know if something's going to be the prequels or Knights of the Old Republic. You know, both of them were pretty much the same idea. One was good, one was not, you know?
Well, and you know, when you say prequels, I know what you feel like. It becomes synonymous with Star Wars, but it doesn't have to be.
Sure.
And saying this is a prequel series, I think really should be seen as a technical term for it's taking place before the other series, not it's the story leading up to Game of Thrones, because it's not.
Of course.
This is going to be set much farther in the past about how the White Walkers were created in the first place. And I think that's a really smart move, because that's more Knights of the Old Republic.
Yes. And yeah.
Hulu has announced season 2 of Castle Rock will star Tim Robbins, Lizzie Kaplan, who was most recently in Masters of Sex, and Elsie Fisher from 8th grade. Season 2 will center around Annie Wilkes, who Lizzie Kaplan will play. That's a nurse from hell, says Variety, who gets waylaid in the town of Castle Rock as a feud between warring clans comes to a boil. If you remember the movie version of Misery, which is where the character of Annie Wilkes comes from, Kathy Bates won an Academy Award for supporting actress for playing Kaplan in that.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see how close the interpretations are.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I haven't seen Misery.
You haven't seen Misery?
I haven't seen the movie. But I think it would be weird for something that good to be a sort of not stunt, but it's sort of like, hey, let's bring someone from the extended universe into Castle Rock, which is kind of what Castle Rock is doing. So. Right. I don't know. That's a risky move, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Although, and are you all caught up on Castle Rock, Bryce?
No, I haven't watched it.
Yeah, I only watched 2 episodes. I liked it, but other stuff came out that kind of got in the way. But I liked the 2 episodes that I saw. I thought the mystery of all that stuff was pretty cool, and it didn't feel. I don't know enough about the Stephen King verse, so. Just that it was that Shawshank was the only thing I knew, and then everything else was new to me. So.
Which, if anything, is a real testament to quality in that you weren't leaning on any of the previous lore.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about what we've had our eyes on. Brian.
Dude, I have a real complicated relationship with Love, Death, Robots. Have you watched any more of those?
I watched a couple more of them, and I did not love them enough to watch a lot more of them, but I do intend to continue to watch them.
So I think all of this is fairly non-spoilery, so we could talk about it now, not later. it feels to me like you and I are just too experienced in science fiction to have any of them land to us. They all feel like stories we read when we were 14, and we see every time one ended, I was like, well, that was, obvious from a million miles away, and the writing wasn't very good. But somewhere out there is a 12 to 16-year-old boy who has not heard these tropes before, who doesn't instantly know the moment an ex-girlfriend shows up that she's secretly probably an alien or some kind of malicious whatever. And I don't want to, I'm burdened with the curse of knowledge. And as a result, so much of what people tell me they like about this doesn't land with me. However, the animation is gorgeous. The worlds are very diverse. It reminds me of the golden age of science fiction when you would get anthologies like, Amazing Stories or whatever. And it's hard to have much of a journey in 10 minutes, but here's my take. They're all bad, but I think I love them. They're all bad, but I think I love them.
There are some good. There are some. I really liked Good Hunting. The Japanese
like
with the spirit thing. I really liked that.
Yeah.
The rest of them are.
I liked Suits.
Suits is fine.
I liked most of Three Robots before the weird, dorky, unnecessary ending.
Sure.
The only things I don't like is the things that there are many of these stories, and I've mentioned this before, that I really wish my daughter could watch, but she won't like. The gratuitous sex and violence, I don't have a problem with, and I wouldn't even have a problem if I had a child who was into that stuff recommending it to them, because it's, like we talked about before, it's heavy metal, the animated movie basically. But it's so gratuitous and so unnecessary for the story that I know for a fact that my 15-year-old, who might have enjoyed all of these stories, would really actively hate them because of that gratuitous language, gore, and genitals. And I don't think this is me being an old man. I think it's a bummer that they seem to be appealing to a demographic who couldn't get those things, who doesn't exist anymore. Like heavy metal, you couldn't get those boobs and that violence anywhere else. So that's why they had it there, and that's why it was appealing. But now, I don't know, teenagers can get that anywhere if that's what they want. And I feel like by wedging it in there, it feels old-fashioned and out of touch to me. That's what I think.
I'm going to guess that a lot of the creators of these would disagree that it's wedged in there. Would say that it occurred to them naturally, and they were just telling a story without limits. But I know what you mean is that it feels like it wasn't necessary, because we live in a world where that isn't on most of the things we see on Netflix. And so it was a little jarring for me too, to be like, well, okay, yeah, this is the kind of content we're watching here. Okay, got it. I'm not used to that being the Netflix way, even though it's not like House of Cards or Orange is the New Black shied away from that HBO level stuff. I think maybe also in the shorter animated stuff, it might stick out a little more to you.
There is an episode that is super, and one of the things I love about it is that there's so many different animation styles. One of them is that super highly, almost uncanny valley realistic, motion captured, very realistic people, and they have a sex scene that is like I don't know, 6 inches away from being a full-on Pornhub thing, and then likewise, there's one that's animated with essentially picture Lego people, but they make sure to wedge in for no reason unnecessary to the story a girl with her top off being angry, shaking boobies. It's like they can't not. I mean, there was a mandate at some point that said they had to put all this stuff in.
I mean, there's definitely a demographic of people who want something like this.
Sure.
Something that leans into like, okay, this is an adult thing, and I expect to see adult. I those people exist.
Yes,
They're
yes,
out there.
and
I don't know, man. I'm just sitting here thinking, like, when I showed my first novel to my dad, he's like, I like the story, but why'd you have to have him curse? It's unnecessary, right? And then there is a part of me that's like, yeah, it might feel like it was wedged in or mandated by you. I'm curious if the people who made this feel that way, though.
Yeah, because it seems like there are different leads on each short, but the way the credits look, it looks like it all came out of the same studio.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
It was
Also,
I'm not
interesting
saying
to
either.
find
Yeah.
out
We,
about
we
that.
talked about the ordering experiment last week.
Right.
I am convinced that that is what has broken my ability to watch them in order, because I watched the first 4 that played straight through, and then I clicked on 5, and 5 ended and immediately went back to number 1. I was like, no, I want the next one. So I started 6. 6 ended and it went back to number 1. I was like, no, I want number 7. 7 ended and it went back to number 2. Like I'm normally Netflix doesn't have trouble with that kind of stuff.
The one thing I want to make sure that I mention here is we talked about this on Current Geek with Scott Johnson last week, and Scott loves this series, adores it. And it goes back to something you said earlier, Brian, about how you don't like the stories, but you still like it. I think, first of all, a lot of it has to do with what you bring to it, right? We all bring our own experiences and enjoy things in different levels because of that. And I think Scott, because he is an animator and has always enjoyed art and animation, just appreciates the beauty and the differing styles of this quite a bit. And so that to me has helped me understand, okay, I'm coming at it as somebody who was looking for story. And that's not what this is. This is not their good story thing. For the same reason that Scott hates Animaniacs, because the animation is so bad. And I'm like, what are you talking about? It's hilarious. It's great stories and jokes. So it kind of does depend on the frame of mind you go in and what you're expecting.
Well, the exciting thing is in the upcoming civil war between Scott Johnson and Tom Merritt, I now know whose side I'm on.
Thanks, man. Oh, wait. My side, right?
Yeah, no, it's a
Okay.
story.
Right,
Team story.
Hey, the thing I got to see this weekend, because Fandango, which my wife works for, offered its subscribers. This wasn't a because my wife works there thing I got there. They offered anybody on Fandango the chance to buy a ticket to Shazam early at several theaters here in Los Angeles. So I went to see the movie, and it was great. I had a really good time. It is like a kid's version of Deadpool, right? It's a PG version of Deadpool. I shouldn't say kids, that makes it sound too G rated, but it's irreverent, but it's irreverent and family friendly. And it is a great family story. I don't want to give too much away, but it, involves foster children and Billy Batson, searching for his real parents, at the same time working in the legend of Shazam and how Billy Batson becomes Shazam and having to fight a fairly credible villain. It's not the most innovative villain, but it kind of doesn't matter because you're having so much fun with the rest of the story.
I've heard it called Big as a superhero movie. Would that be an accurate?
That's because at one point he's walking on piano things.
Oh, no. Are you sure it's not because it's about a kid who becomes an adult?
Well, no, but like they literally go like, look, we're like Big.
Oh, okay.
And they have Shazam walk across the piano.
So they paint it red. But no,
Yeah.
I did not mean that scene. I meant the movie in general. Its conceit is seeing an adult portray a child in an adult's body.
Yeah. And they're very self-aware of that, I guess, is all I'm saying.
Cool.
But yeah, it is. It's fun. It's a really fun, enjoyable DC movie. So I don't know. That's what I saw. What did you see, Bryce?
We've gotten On the Lookout.
When you were on the lookout for things.
On the
right
lookout,
now.
yeah.
What did you see?
But before I get into that, Us came out. Us is very good. We should talk about Us next week on Spoilerin Time after Brian sees it. But we got a pick from David Pick, who picked this show in his letter. He says, "Hi, Brian, Bryce, Tom, and Jackie," somewhere in the chat. "I realize there are so many viewing options to choose from, but I have a pick for you from YouTube Premium. It's Ryan Hansen Solves Crimes on Television. Season 2 dropped a few weeks ago. The first 2 episodes of seasons 1 and 2 are free on YouTube. The Brian Brushwood test of if it's good or not, try season 1, episode 7 with Kristen Bell. If he does not find that episode funny, then it's doubtful he would find the rest of the show any good." Thanks from David Pick from Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. Thanks, David. 2 seasons of Ryan Hansen Solves Crimes on Television are streaming now on YouTube Premium, and the first couple episodes of each season are streaming for free. Have either of you guys actually seen this?
No, I've not.
It's like a meta buddy cop comedy where he's Ryan Hansen is some guy who gets a YouTube show to solve crimes. The first season, he's partnered up with an actual cop. And I don't even know the conceit of the second season. I guess they replace his buddy cop. But it's very meta. It's all like there's a bit in this trailer where is it Stephen Merchant here on screen, I believe.
That seems right. Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, "Oh man, I hope you're not asking me to do a cameo." And he's like, oh, no, because I wouldn't want to do a cameo on a YouTube show. No, I'd never. And then he looks at the camera and it's like, ooh.
And they wink at the fourth wall.
Yeah. So it's the beginning of this trailer, there is a joke of like, oh, Cobra Kai has 100% fresh rating. What rating do you have? And he's like, we don't have one. And she's like, what do you mean that no one reviewed our show? And then it's like a big Rotten Tomatoes screen cap of like 0 reviews on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, that's great.
So it's a very meta comedy. The first couple episodes that I watched, I really enjoyed. So that's Ryan Hansen Solves Crimes on Television on YouTube Premium.
Awesome.
If you got something we should be on the lookout for, email us cordkillers@gmail.com. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a newsletter, and I am not in prison, but the newsletter is called Free Tom Newsletter. It will free me to tell you about what I've been up to, not only on Cordkillers, but Daily Tech News Show, Current Geek, any books I've got coming out, all that sort of stuff. So if you want to keep up with what I'm doing these days, why not join me at freetomnewsletter.com.
Man, that is really forward thinking of you for like when you do get arrested. You're going to be so glad you have that domain.
It's just a little hedge just in case. So please subscribe. It's important.
It's important.
My future. All right, let's move on to the front lines.
Front lines.
Netflix gathered reporters together for its lab days and dropped a few tidbits about ratings. Reed Hastings said, "It doesn't matter to anyone." So nothing changed there. Netflix also emphasized over and over that only 5% of the world are native English speakers, so they want to continue to produce local content that can find global audiences and are focused on increasing the use of dubbing, which they know is not normal in the U.S. market or even a lot of the English market, but they say they have the chops to make it work. So that'll be an interesting thing to keep an eye on. Netflix VP of Product Todd Yellen said Netflix will continue to experiment with how to present series, such as the experiment we were mentioning earlier, where Love, Death, and Robots gives different viewers one of 4 different episode orders.
That all seems pretty good, right? We're in favor of the experimentation. I mean, outside of my order being messed up.
Yeah, I think so. I like the idea of them experimenting. He also mentioned something about like showing you episodes from Love, Death, and Robots that they think you might like without trying to get you to watch the entire thing. As a way to handle this, like, hey, Love, Death, and Robots is a bunch of different flavors, and maybe each flavor isn't great for everybody. But if we can guess that you like this one because it's comic or this one because it's action, then we might suggest just particular episodes.
Yeah, this goes back to that little machine learning for what you're going to want to discover next on the Apple thing. Like the winner will be the one who's first to offer a blind feed, where it's just like, you know what? Do you trust us? Then shut up. Tell us how much time you can sit down and we'll start a feed for you. Meanwhile, Ampere Analysis says that all of the new programs added to Netflix catalog in 2018, of all of them, 51% were originals. It's the first time that the majority of new items were originals. That makes 11% of Netflix's entire catalog originals now. The 51% made sense. Surprised that all of that totaled together is only 11%. But I guess 10 years from now, I mean, it's going to be half the catalog, right?
Well, I think it just shows you how much is in that catalog that you're not aware of, because you only see your window, right?
Right.
And I'm reminded of this every time my wife launches her Netflix and all those Asian dramas show up that I had no idea. And there are many of them. And they're not Netflix originals. They're just acquisitions, which goes back to that international aspect and the dubbing. I think we talked about this on the flashback episode of Netflix was, first of all, streaming is where we need to be ahead of the curve to save ourselves, and they did. And then originals, where they needed to be ahead of the curve to save themselves, and they did. And I feel like acquisitions of content creators like Miller World and international is Netflix's latest sort of moves to be like, we need to be ahead of the curve. We'll see if it continues to be them being ahead of the curve. YouTube has canceled 2 of its biggest originals, Origin and Overthinking with Kat and June. And sources were telling Bloomberg they don't think YouTube is accepting pitches anymore for scripted shows. YouTube original content, according to these sources, would increasingly be made with YouTube creators, and YouTube Premium would focus on features like background playback, lack of ads, and YouTube Music. However, YouTube denied the report, telling Variety, "We deny this report," basically. They say they have several scripted projects in development, and they will unveil them in the next few weeks. And of course, YouTube's New Friends presentation happened in New York on May 2nd, so that's when you would expect them to propose them. It's interesting for YouTube to come out and give a flat denial of this, but my guess is they're probably softening on those pitches and maybe trying to steer back towards including creators more in their originals than going after just Hollywood names like they did with Cobra Kai.
This does feel like an echo of what we saw once, because you remember the first time that YouTube went full on Hollywood. They're like, oh, we're going to be like a Hollywood place, and all of a sudden they're like, psych, what we're going to do is focus on our best creators, because oh wait, we have a very valuable resource in the millions of independent creators, but we're going to put them in Hollywood like shows. And now it does make sense that they might roll it back and be like, you know what, we're going to let them do what they're already good at doing, and that's it. and not spend the money on it, which, to be honest, is actually heartening, because a big in this what's the PewDiePie versus, is it T-Series? Is that what it is?
Yes.
That really, the meta narrative of that is who should be the number one YouTuber, an independent creator or a corporate massive thing. That is the proxy battle that many people view, the lens through which they view that. And so it wouldn't surprise me, and in fact I have a dog in the fight, having a couple of YouTube channels. Like I want them to continue to support independent creators and feel like that's where their core is.
A corollary part of this story is Susanne Daniels, who's in charge of YouTube Originals and has been for a while. The Bloomberg sources were saying she's looking around to leave because of this shift. Susanne Daniels also came out and denied this, and she's like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm happy to be here developing the originals. So I don't know. Usually when you get a Bloomberg story like this, there's some truth behind it. It may just have been exaggerated, where they're like, yeah, we're not taking as many pitches as we used to. And I don't know, I bet Susanne is going to jump soon. Whereas Suzanne's like, no, I'm not going to jump soon. So
it also seems like the kind of thing you would deny while you still have things in the cooker that are going to come out. You don't want to remove all the.
You don't have to deny, is the thing. You could just not comment, right? That's usually the safer bet, even if it's not true. It's just, you know what, I'm not even going to honor that with a response. But she came out with an actual denial, so that's interesting.
But if subscribers are on the line, if paying subscribers are on the line.
It's true. Well, the YouTube Originals are no longer part of YouTube Premium. They're just going to be rolled out to everybody. So.
Meanwhile, Crunchyroll is raising its prices for the very first time. The monthly U.S. cost will go from $6.95 to $7.99, and annual subscriptions will go from $60 to $80. Current members will get to keep their rates for 3 months. That seems like a no-brainer, right? I mean, it sounds like for the niche and breadth that Crunchyroll offers, they can get away with another $1.20.
Money grubbers.
Sorry, $1.04.
Yeah, it was weird. That was the thing I noticed too. Like, oh, they used to have 95, and now they're gonna rake in a few extra cents with that 99.
Wait a minute, but then the annual makes less, or is less of a good savings. That's where they're making the real money. Oh, $20 whole.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't raised their price since they launched, which was 2006. So yeah, I think it's about time that they get an extra $1 or so.
Yeah.
MoviePass announced it's bringing back its unlimited ticket plan for a limited time at $9.95 a month. And Helios and Matheson CEO Ted Farnsworth gave a long interview to TechCrunch saying that MoviePass is profitable on a revenue per subscriber basis. That doesn't mean it's profitable when you count overhead and debt, but it does mean that it is not losing money on each subscription anymore, which is good for it. And it says, Farnsworth says that they've paid back some of the $5 million loan that they took out. So who knows? Maybe MoviePass will survive.
Sure. You know what's a great business strategy is hanging on to the tagline, "We're back," and constantly saying that.
And changing the plan every month. Every month we've had a story about the new way you use MoviePass. This is insanity.
Comcast announced a new hub for its internet-only customers called Flex coming March 26th. For $5 a month, you get up to 2 4K HDR streaming boxes that provide access to free and paid streaming TV shows and movies, along with access to multiple apps like Netflix, Prime Video, Pluto TV, etc. The main appeal appears to be a content guide that helps you find what you want to watch across apps. It also offers a hub for managing smart home devices.
I mean, this is just brilliant for Comcast. You could take pot shots all day long about why you won't want this, but Comcast is saying, look, people are definitely cutting the cord, but there are a lot of people out there who are a little confused about what they should do when they cut the cord. And so we can continue to rake money in off those people by selling them a device for $5 a month. They don't have to figure out how to work a Roku. They don't have to decide to spend a bunch of money on an Apple TV. For $5 a month, they get to have the security blanket of a Comcast provided device with the X1 voice remote and everything. And I bet they get a bunch of people who take them up on this because they just don't want to have to think about it or research it.
Well, and there are a number of customers that are not price sensitive. You know, some people cut the cord because they want to save some money. Other people cut the cord because they want the maximum availability of options. So now it's like, hey, you don't have to do anything. You get to enjoy that inertia of sitting right where you already are. Just give us $5. And now every time your nephew comes in talking about how he cut the cord, you can just shrug and say like, yeah, I have all that too.
Yeah, pretty much. They still have to pay for the Netflix and Hulu and whatnot subscriptions separately if they're not free, but they can pay for them through Comcast in some cases like Netflix and get them on their bill. So that's another attraction there as well. Yeah. All right, let's get to the dispatches from the front.
So Steven sent us a long letter, and I apologize, Steven, but we didn't want to dedicate the whole show to it. So, but the point, he says, one whimsical day he wrote into What If, the comic book, the one that's getting its own series, which had a letter column where people could make suggestions and stuff, which letter column used to regularly request reader suggestions for future concepts. I sent one in that actually intrigued me and promptly made my, he forgot about it after sending it. And of course, it takes a few months for stuff to appear in these. And one day he grabs his copy of What If and he's reading the letters in the back. And there was one that said, hey, what if the Fantastic Four had discovered Captain America frozen under the sea instead of the Avengers? And he thought, oh man, that would be a great one because I would change this and that and the other thing. And then he read that it was from him, which I thought was an awesome story that made me remember those days.
That's great. I love this story. Thank you so much for writing it, Stephen. And also I hope they make that story into one of the TV shows. John wrote in and said, I just listened to episode 259 and I wanted to chime in to say that I, for once, agree with Brian. In the previous email where the person explained why he used Netflix DVD services still, he cites how many movies he can watch for the $20 monthly fee. His reference to other services such as Redbox, rental streaming, and online purchasing, etc., all applies to new releases that aren't immediately available on Netflix streaming. While I personally don't have Netflix DVD service anymore, I have friends that do for this reason. Keep up the good work. Great point, John. Not one that was made by the original emailer, but a good one that one of the advantages if you do the DVD service is you have a wider selection of new releases.
Alan writes in saying that he takes issue with us saying no more Disney Vault. He is quick to point out, yes, they will be available. If you have a Disney Plus subscription, you will be able to stream the entire catalog of Disney stuff, give or take, but they will still most definitely have a Disney Vault of physical media. Get ready for that re-release of Aladdin when the new movie comes out, which I think is a good distinction to make. They probably still will be doing the Disney Vault when it comes to physical media.
Yeah. Okay, that's a very good point, Alan. And Alan's a listener of DTNS. I chat with him all the time. I argue with Alan all the time, so I'll take this opportunity to continue to argue with him just a little. There's a difference between the Disney Vault that says once it's in there, you cannot buy it. We are not going to sell it. And the Disney Vault that's like, once it's in there, the only way you can get it is to subscribe to Disney Plus. It's not quite as tight of a vault, I guess. So maybe it's a Disney cage.
The Disney cage. Paul from Dayton writes in wanting to comment on the use of the X-ray feature. You said you didn't like the X-ray feature, Bryce, because what? Because every time you pause it, a bunch of information shows up,
and I couldn't seem to find a way to actually turn it off.
Right. Well, he says if you want the X-ray, but you don't want to see it, like I think he misinterpreted it as you wanted X-ray even while it's running. You didn't want to have to pause it.
The opposite, Paul. The opposite.
Exactly. In which case, you could actually do the second screen feature. They got that built in when you launch the app, when you launch the thing.
Wait,
and
what
you're
is
able
that?
To. It says here.
So like on your phone?
Yeah. Regardless, it says here the feature is available on the Amazon Video app on Android devices, on Fire tablets. One note is that if you go the Fire tablet route, not all tablets work with all devices, blah, blah, blah. Regardless of which device you use, you either start the show from the other device or join a video in progress, provided both devices are on the same wireless network. And while the video plays, the IMDb information that's normally displayed and obscuring the screen is displayed on the other device.
See, I like that because when I do want, then I'll check my phone. I don't want to pause the thing.
Yeah,
so
that's actually really good. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul.
But you have to have a Fire HD tablet. It doesn't work on your phone.
Ew.
They should make an app that does this on the phones.
They should.
Yeah,
But
that also launches, because I don't have to launch the one thing and launch. I guess he said launch from the device.
I'm surprised
Yeah.
it's not built into the Prime Video app that they have on. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah.
Right. That'd be a cool place to put it. Trent, I mentioned earlier in the show, wrote in and said, I'm thinking that when Bryce steps in to comment on something, someone needs to say, ladies and gentlemen, Cordkillers producer, Bryce Castillo. Bryce Castillo, everybody. Then sound effects of the crowd cheering so that the tens of people who are listening for the first time will know who it is. It'll be awesome.
Ladies and gentlemen, what is Bryce Castillo, producer of Cordkillers thing?
This is too much attention, Trent. Thank you.
We will try to do a better job of mentioning Bryce at the top of the show so people know when he talks to us.
And Mike wrote in saying, the old theater in my small town occasionally shows old movies to get people to come to the downtown area. Last night, it was Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. By the way, side thought here, this is Brian speaking, is a prequel. Think about that. It was a reminder to me that going to the movie theater will never die. The experience of watching a movie with a crowd with all the reactions, yucks, and screams with disgust could never be replicated at home. There are just some movies that are better when seen with large groups of strangers. Yes, yes, and
cool.
yes.
Yes to Mike, and yes to I'm from now on. The Temple of Doom is what I'm going to assume people mean when they say prequel, and just see what that does.
That's your go-to prequel.
Yeah. Oh, like Temple of Doom. What?
Yeah.
Hey, everybody. We love you, and we're glad you're watching our show. Our website is cordkillers.com. Our email address is cordkillers@gmail.com. We're live on twitch.tv/Night Attack. Also on diamondclub.tv, Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Support us on Patreon. Tell your friends, and see us next week.
Hey guys, Brian and Tom here, and it's just the same old message at the end of the credits, just like always.
That's right, Brian. Nothing new here except your name showing up.
Oh my gosh,
because
I've got a
you
name.
just supported us on Patreon.
Yeah, all those $5 donors, look at that. That's your name in pixels. We're gonna make you famous, kid. Put your
There's
name in
some
pixels on
classic
the internet.
names in there, but some of you are new. Some of you aren't there. It's sad. What can they do, Brian?
I mean, they could go to patreon.com/cordkillers and pledge $5 an episode and be one of these amazing people, like this one.
Amazing.
Oh, look at that name right there.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.